All right, let's hit it.
Oh my God, what is this?
A new era dawns to fill the void. An unfamiliar path with a pulse of its own.
3, 2, 1.
Final Encountercast. Interesting conflicts, not conflicts of interest.
Typical corporate bullshit.
With your hosts, Nate, Robbie, Chris, Nika, and Callie. FinalEncountercast.com.
Ready? Get set? Go!
Hey, what's up? Welcome to Final Encountercast. Thanks for joining us, twitch.tv/Limit Break Radio. We're live here on Sundays at 1 p.m. If you're listening on the podcast and you'd like to join us live, we invite you to do that. That's 1 p.m. Sundays, twitch.tv/Limit Break Radio. Of course, the benefit to joining us live is that, well, first of all,
the pre-show music.
You get treated to amazing pre-show music that is unlike anything you've ever heard anywhere else.
We promise.
Trust me.
There will be bears.
But the other thing is that you get to call us live to Final Encountercast on Skype. 810-207-1764 is how you do that. Kookie,
Which most people don't do.
Why are you interrupting me?
Because most people don't do this on FEC. So, like, if you wanted to call in, you actually have the best shot of doing so by calling on FEC. We get callers backed up on, like, LBR all the time, tons and tons of people.
It's true.
But if you want to call in on FEC, like, you'd probably be right at the front of the line.
Here's the thing, is we won't talk about Final Fantasy 14 on this show.
No, we won't do that.
Why do you think we don't get callers on FEC?
I don't know. I think it is pretty early in the morning for some folks.
Yeah.
I think sometimes because we're like moving through news segments too. Like no one wants to call in out of a news segment that was like 3 segments ago.
Kind of. There was the one show that we told people like it's okay to call in like if we're not on that segment anymore. Like you can still ask questions, and we did get some calls that episode.
Yeah, that's true.
Do we have to like remind them every fucking time?
I mean, maybe.
Apparently. How long have you been doing LBR? You know we do.
Jesus.
Yeah. Anyway, Final Encountercast on Skype, 810-207-1764. You can chime in on any of the news stories that you hear, as well as our discussion topic today.
Yeah. Or if there's something that maybe we're not talking about that you want to ask us about.
That's right.
That too.
Actually, yeah, that too. Our lines are always open for you. Final Encountercast, 810-207-1764. Although if you want to try to troll us, that's an option. But
that's happened on a rare occasion.
It's never worked out for the people that try to do it, though. It's never worked out for the people who call and try to troll us. So if maybe you can be the first. So yeah, we invite your calls, and if you're listening on the podcast, if you're listening through FinalEncountercast.com, where we've got our full archive of shows, feel free to join us 1 p.m. twitch.tv/Limit Break Radio. That's 1 p.m. Eastern. So we are of course available on iTunes, now called Apple Podcasts, I guess, in some places in the world.
Who made that decision? Apple Podcast sounds awful.
I think Apple did.
That's awful, though.
I mean, I agree. It's clumsy. I just think, why just call it iTunes? It's a part of iTunes.
Yeah.
Just call it that. But it's a different app now, apparently, on Apple devices, which is why they do that. So, anyway, we are available on Apple Podcasts, a.k.a. iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. So make sure that you subscribe to Final Encountercast, and we are supported over at patreon.com/Limit Break Radio. We've got a pretty important discussion happening right now. If you are a Patreon subscriber, you can chime in on that. I'm sure that we're going to get a lot of feedback about our current proposal for
both positive and maybe not positive.
Yeah, but the thing is that we are going to be most keyed in and most responsive to those that are chiming in at patreon.com/Limit Break Radio. So even if you even if you just do $1 a month, set it and forget it, you never use Patreon for anything else, make sure you go and find the post that talks about the next phase of content, the next step in content. So
it's important. Speak now or forever hold your peace.
That's right. So again, we are going to be engaging, I would say most meaningfully, over at patreon.com/limitbreakradio on that discussion. Although we do invite feedback from all sources, we've got to make sure that we're paying attention to those that we know, and can verify our giving, our current Patreons. And because we can't keep track of all of your different Twitter names and Facebook names, and
they struggle enough with keeping track of my names,
right? Like there's like 7 of them.
I promise they'll not keep up with yours.
So make sure that you join the discussion over at patreon.com/limitbreakradio. Reminder that Extra Life is November 4th. Team Limit Break Radio is a thing. I signed up for it.
So did I.
So you can find all of our names on that now. extra-life.org/team/Limit Break Radio. What did you guys set your goal as?
100.
100?
I just set it at the minimum.
Yeah. That's
and then I'll just make what I can.
Sad bastards.
It was actually funny because when I signed up, I had an alert for $50 donation, and I'm like, what, already? I literally just put this up, and then it said 712 days ago.
Yeah. I did the same thing. I got like a $10 donation from someone.
Probably your mom.
No. I don't remember the person.
Anyway, extra-life.org/team/Limit Break Radio.
I can't believe we all signed up and Nika didn't even congratulate any one of us.
Yeah, fuck you, Nika. Apparently she gets notified. Did you guys get a thank you when you signed up?
No.
Because I waited hours and I'm like, Nika, I signed up. She's like, oh, I know. Well, thanks for saying something.
Okay. Anyway, I don't know why you're being weird about that, but sure.
You need the recognition.
Because she bitched about it so much. Yes,
Nika,
I do.
Do you have any comments about that?
I'm a girl, I like dicks.
Okay, well, I guess that's fair.
That says it all, really.
But anyway, Nika's not here, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She's not, which is what makes this segment so weird, because we hadn't addressed the fact that she's not here.
Well, her water broke this morning, so we're all just kind of on standby, waiting for the call.
We're going
to hurry out to the hospital as soon as we get it.
She was over at the FF14 Bahamut Escape Room Challenge. So
that's a rough place for your water to break.
Yeah, I know.
Do you think they just give you a clear?
No,
you can't
it puts
leave
some real
until
stakes on it.
Yeah, you can't leave until
they put stakes on it. Why would they put stakes on a baby?
That sounds really delicious.
Which part? The steak part or the baby part?
The steak part.
Oh, okay. Father of the Year. Anyway, yeah, Nika's not here today, so that's why we're
talking about her,
plugging Extra Life, and not just letting her do it. But she'll be streaming on November 4th. Some of us will be out at Youmacon. Chris, I'm assuming that you're gonna maybe help her stream, but we're gonna have a little bit more solidified plans of when exactly we're gonna do a makeup stream for Extra Life, and we encourage you to donate. We encourage you to give. All donations go to the Children's Miracle Network, and we appreciate all of the support for Extra Life. I set my goal at a humble $2,000.
That's pretty reasonable.
Yeah,
yeah.
But I just care about kids with cancer that much more than you guys do.
I just don't want to put any expectations out there. I'm going to raise as much as I can.
Yeah.
I just don't want to feel like a
just
failure.
have no faith.
Yeah, but when you set the bar that low, like, you know what I mean? Like,
there is no bar as far as I'm aware. Like, you think when I get to the 100, I'm going to be like, all right, boom, there we go. I got it.
Done. I'm out. Peace.
No, you keep reaching.
Well, yeah, but anyone who comes to your page is like, oh, man, he's already reached his goal.
Well, I mean,
you know,
they're going to donate for kids with cancer. They're not going to be like, oh, he's reached his goal. I guess
no, but
there is no goal.
But they might donate to someone else.
Exactly. They may look for another participant to go donate.
I mean, if they randomly come across it, I guess, but I'm going to be actively sending people there when I stream.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Or you could just up your goal to 2,000.
Yeah, right.
What'd you set your goal to, Joe?
That's not set yet.
Oh, Joe doesn't even have a goal.
No, I'm not
Way
setting
to
a goal
go,
until I have a
Callie.
date.
Callie's his name on the show, not Joe. Callie.
Well, like we said, he has too many fucking names.
Yeah.
2.
3. Escalia.
Joe.
Oh, okay.
Callie. Escalia. Fuckface.
Well, I mean, you gave me that one.
Number 6.
Number 6.
The fans gave me that one. I mean, come on.
no
Those
right
ones
there.
I'm not responsible
fuck you.
for.
Fans.
Fuck
What?
you. I gave you number 6.
Oh, I forgot.
The fans didn't give you number 6.
No?
I gave you number 6.
Okay.
That was a
You
part.
gave me number 6.
Yeah.
That sounds really dirty.
It kinda
I did the
does.
number 6 on you, buddy.
It does, like,
Pal.
if number 6 was an STD, this would be a much weirder conversation.
I mean, I could look up
Well, yeah.
Urban Dictionary. It might be.
But yeah, maybe number 6 is. That's a weird way of saying the clap.
Well, anyway.
Don't forget Boo Boo Kitty Fuck. What the hell? Some of these names I don't even know about.
It's probably for the best.
Yeah.
Well, Coogie pulls the episode. Number 6, episode 13.3.
So how do you know that, like, off the top of your head?
She has like a database of everything.
I mean, I think we did call that episode FF14's worst.
I
it's pretty
think we
easy. It's
did,
pretty
yeah.
easy to find.
Bravo.
It's pretty easy to find. Anyway, all right, let's check out what's going on in the news.
I'm here to do the news tonight.
And that's the way the news goes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt this program to bring you important news.
Here's a story that's out of this world.
Another homebrew World of Warcraft server has shut down. But believe it or not, it's not because Blizzard has C&D'd them. No, in fact, it's because they've alleged a former employee embezzled thousands of dollars in donated funds from the company.
Wow.
Holy shit.
I like to think that internally Blizzard was like, you know what, I'm getting sick of this. Let's let one of them go so they can just get off our backs about it. And then they tank themselves.
And that's the one that, gets busted for embezzlement.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It is kind of a crazy story. The fact that there was money that was being made at all off of something like this.
That's actually a good point too. Like, not just a couple bucks either. Like, if he was able to embezzle thousands, how much then, actually went to where it should have gone to?
Right, well, how much were they making where he thought he could get away with stealing thousands?
Right, like, that's kind of a ridiculous overhead if you think about it.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not paying money to play on a legacy server.
Yeah, but enough people,
donations,
enough people would, or donations to keep the servers up, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
You may recall we recently reported on a study conducted by a European Commission a while back studying the effects of piracy in video games. Some interesting results show that video game piracy may result in up to 24% more video games being downloaded legally. Now, in the interest of transparency, the study is under fire for having an abnormally large margin of error at around 45%.
That is a pretty big margin. That's a massive margin.
Who paid for that
error.
study? What the hell? 45%?
Come on,
That's
guys.
not a margin of error. That's just error.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to have to agree with Chris here.
That's just guessing.
Yeah, no, seriously, yeah, that's when your margin of error is about the odds of a coin flip. That's not good. It's not good. And of course, you know that they probably tried to put that in like fine print, like super small font at the bottom. Yeah, margin of error 45%.
That means rather than maybe 24% more video games being downloaded legally, it could also be a 21% loss.
I'm just listen. Clearly, whoever had bought, paid for this study had a conclusion that they wanted these people to reach.
They're like, look, maybe there's a chance that after they play the game illegally, they're like, I want to support the game and go and buy it. But also, they might not.
Was this study like funded by Kazaa or Pirate Bay? What the fuck?
It does. I mean, it does seem really odd.
I feel like there should be like a threshold for like the percentage of error, and once you're over that threshold, it's not a fucking study anymore.
Well, there is a threshold. It's about 20%.
Okay,
yeah.
Then how do they get to come out and say, so we did a study? No, you did not do a study. You just released some shit.
I know exactly how this got through Europe.
Okay.
We have standards in America.
Yeah.
Do we?
Okay.
Yes.
You know what? The last time one of us bashed on Europe, they sent multiple team to Worlds and we got kicked out. Yeah. Joe, Scalia, Callie, whatever the fuck.
I know. Cloud9 booted out last night. Have fun for the rest of Worlds, guys.
They didn't even make it to semis.
No, it's 2 Korean teams and 2 Chinese teams.
I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
You punch like somebody who isn't American.
I enjoyed the little nyeh in there.
I mean, there's no way I can edit that out, so.
No, that's fair. The Xbox One S continues to struggle with sales in Japan, frequently moving only...
No!
Oh, yeah. Only moving 50 units a week as compared to 20,000 for PS4 and Switch.
Oh, my God!
You might not want to tell your friends about that.
5-0.
Yeah, it's still being seen as a niche system over there, and companies that make games popular in Japan are hesitant to create games for it. And
also known as Nintendo syndrome.
NIS America said they're not diametrically opposed to developing on Xbox, but their market share is so small in Japan that it seems unlikely.
That number,
50?
that doesn't even seem real. That seems like an Onion headline. 50 a week?
American executives face suicide as system moves 50 consoles.
And remember, guys, this is supposed to be the console that brings developers back to the Xbox.
Well, it's not doing that in Japan.
No,
I think that's what we need to remember.
No, not at all.
Fucking thing.
Like, it is the strangest disparity there. Like, you would think that
it's off by 2 digits.
That is
20. You said how many PS4s?
20,000.
20,000
a week.
A week.
Yeah.
50
And
versus 50.
And the PS4 is older too. The Xbox One S just recently. Oh wait.
The One S would be the first incarnation, right?
Sorry. I'm thinking of the
well,
One
wait
X.
a minute. Hang on.
Xbox One X.
Hang on. If we're talking about Xbox One S, that actually makes it a little bit different. I thought it was just Xbox One overall. I mean, Xbox One S is still, that's pretty bad. I mean, 50 systems a week is pretty grim. The thing is, though, is that Microsoft knew that they would be splitting their market share by having the Xbox One and the One S. And I don't think that they should be terribly surprised that an upgraded version of a console that already doesn't sell well in that region continues to sell poorly.
But Sony did it with the PS4 Pro.
Interesting.
See, the thing is that they're comparing sales of the PS4 and the Switch. They're not comparing sales of the PS4 Pro, which I think would be a much more honest comparison.
It'd still probably be. I would still think it'd be in 4 digits, though, right?
It's still. I mean, there's still gonna be a disparity. But again, when this
less than 1% different.
This seems skewed. This seems hugely skewed.
Yeah. See, if it specifically says 50 Xbox One S's, I'd like to know what percentage of the PS4s were pros.
Pros versus PS4.
But I mean, isn't a much more fair metric to go Xbox One as a system and include all of the S sales?
Probably, yeah, as well.
And compare that up against Nintendo's overall sales or Sony. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd like to know a little bit more on the specifics.
Yeah, this just seems improperly weighted.
But I'm just with Okita in the chat saying that someone fucked up when they decided Scalebound should be canceled.
Do you think that would have helped?
Remember that one game with the sweet,
do.
The sweet headphones?
Beats by Dragon.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Beats by Dragon.
Regardless, even if you don't put the PS4 stats in there, 50 Xboxes a week
50 is bad.
Still low as shit.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good.
You're not going to get 15,000 Xboxes to make up the difference.
No, you're not. But the thing is that again, I just think that comparison is a little bit unfair. The sales figure is bad, no matter which way you cut it. But I think that that comparison is a little bit unfair.
According to a study from Superdata Research, Twitch is now more popular than HBO, Netflix, and Spotify. Twitch in 2016 clocked in at 185 million viewers compared to HBO's 130 million and Netflix's 93 million. In 2017, Twitch is predicted to grow to 212 million viewers. I think this is also kind of a skewed number. Twitch is free.
Yeah.
HBO, Netflix, and I don't know, is Spotify free?
Well, Twitch is mostly free if you're not subbing to any channel.
Sure, it's optionally free.
Yeah, it's optionally free.
Well, then maybe HBO and Netflix will take a page out of Twitch's book and go free with ads.
See, that's kind of what I was when I saw this number. You're right. When something's free, obviously it's going to have more users. I mean,
Fortnite.
Look how quickly Fortnite garnered
RuneScape.
a following. Right. However, I think that Chris is right. I think that it does also say a little something.
Excuse you. My name is Lord High Fat.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, I do believe.
Please use my proper
Next
knowledge.
week, change his name to Chow Yun Fat.
Oh, that's a good one.
I'm gonna have to say that Lord High Fat is right in that maybe there is some benefit to having a certain free sort of style to
Sure,
your
but
site.
Twitch's overhead's a lot lower than like Netflix, which makes a lot of content.
Yes.
Right.
Twitch basically says, just, hey, content makers, put your shit on here. So I don't know.
I don't think that. Again, it's a totally fair comparison, but
you don't think like imagine if HBO or Netflix or whatnot offered the first episode of certain shows for free, especially like the really hot ones. You don't think that might entice people to try them and then sub because they need more of it?
I literally signed up for VRV last night, which is the platform that Harmon Quest is on.
Okay.
Right? I don't know if there's a sub, and I kept, as I was watching episodes, I kept waiting for sort of that, paywall to hit in. Like, you've watched so many free episodes, now you got to pay a subscription. Like, right. I'm sort of waiting for that, but I signed up for it not knowing if there was a subscription fee.
Did it have you put credit card information in?
No.
Oh.
Interesting.
So you signed up, you didn't pay anything.
Right.
Oh, okay.
No, that's cool.
I was about to call you a retard then for paying for something, but not knowing why.
No. It didn't have me put in anything.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting about this is just that 2017 projection to grow to 212 million users.
Is that surprising to you?
That's a big number.
Yeah.
Like, any way you slice it, even by Twitch standards, that's a big number.
All right, but by esports, like when you look at what esports is doing right now, like I think that hasn't Riot recently said that they're finally expecting a profit out of the LCS for 2018?
Sure, I get it, but I just 212 million registered users, and here's the difference. Unlike certain games that claim they have millions of registered users, I believe people are actually using this service.
Yeah.
I mean, Twitch? Is that people who have subscribed or something, or is it just usernames?
I assume that's registered accounts.
Because, I mean, think of all the bots that there are that people buy botting views and stuff, and each one of those is an account.
That's true. I would be curious to know if this is people who have subbed at least one channel.
5,000 people right there for the bronze level.
I don't think you could count active users. I think you'd have to concurrent IPs connected.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that would make more sense.
How many simultaneous viewers, right? Because that's a metric that they provide each channel.
Not to mention that, because
they do distinguish on that page.
And because when you said 93 million for Netflix is worldwide. That seemed kind of low. But if they're talking concurrent, or even just daily logins or something, that makes a bit more sense.
That and now this is kind of the we've talked about metrics now a couple of different times on the shows, and what's a fair comparison. And the thing is though is that I think to do these comparisons, you do kind of need some sort of standardized method of measurement, right? If Netflix is measuring their user base or their number of subscribers as a number of active paying accounts, how do you come up with a metric like that for Twitch? I think a lot of that needs to be disclosed and needs to be available, or at least researchable. You know what I mean? To make that a fair comparison,
it needs to be more specific.
Yeah.
An interesting tweet out of Crystal Dynamics this week that reads, quote, "I am Raziel, firstborn of his lieutenants. I stood with Cain and my brethren at the dawn of the new empire." New legacy of Cain?
Yes.
I'm thinking, yes.
I hope so. I hope so. Because they also tweeted a picture of Raziel along with
They sure did.
Yeah.
A very good-looking Raziel, I will add.
Do you?
I don't know if the upgrade was. I don't know if there was an upgrade there. That may have been.
I mean, I haven't seen what he looked like last time.
Original artwork.
Raziel in Smash.
So okay, so
stop it.
All right, so obviously we're going to talk a little bit more about what Visceral Games went through later in the show, but since those projects have been shuttered and Amy Hennig, where she's going is still kind of up in the air, do you think it's possible that she went to Crystal Dynamics instead of following Code Project Ragtag?
Okay, all right,
making a new Legacy of Kain trading card game.
Stop it. Here's the thing. Okay, so yes, Amy Hennig and her future is uncertain because Visceral Games has been officially disbanded. I think that technically nullifies her contract. So the question is, does she stay with the Ragtag project and wherever that goes inside of the worldwide talent pool, or does she take the opportunity and go somewhere else?
Because we are living in an age of reboots and reimaginings.
Well, and not only that, but the reports on Ragtag is that it was not performing as how they wanted it to.
The vision wasn't coming together,
right?
Yeah.
And so if Amy drops off that project, I think that may lend that a little bit more credence. Okay. And I had said on Checkpoint this week that there was this little part of, like this little fanboy hope that I have that Amy would go to Square Enix and end up continuing on the Legacy of Kain series.
Every time you say that, I feel like you're you wish bad things upon her. So let's say...
Oh, stop.
No, let's rephrase.
Hang on.
She goes to Crystal Dynamics because they can make a good game.
Well, hang on. Because Square Enix owns the...
Right, yes.
I mean, I don't know if they bought out Crystal Dynamics or they do own IDOS, and IDOS was the one that did... did Soul Reaver, Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, Soul Reaver 2, and Defiance.
Yes, and they also originally did Tomb Raider, which I think either they became or Crystal Dynamics is the one who have been putting them out.
So
yes.
there's an opportunity for Amy to maybe come back to Crystal Dynamics under Square Enix.
Technically.
Here's the thing though, is that, Square Enix has, I think, a real visionary problem. And they have a big problem on, their last couple of big development projects have felt very compassless, have felt at their core like they are a bunch of people coming together and working on a thing that's much bigger than them. And so the stitching on different pieces doesn't exactly weave together in the best way. I think 15 is a great example of that.
FF15 was the best FF ever imagined.
Stop it. Nika's not here. We don't need to even make that fake argument.
We need to fill the fake shoes.
Okay? Don't bother.
Fake argument.
Don't bother, okay? That's fake news. We don't need it here, okay? That's Nika's own propaganda for FF15. We don't need to ironically parrot it.
All right, fair.
It's weird because like I feel like half of your jokes today, Kahlo, have been leaning on the fact that
Nika's an idiot.
That you need Nika here to bounce it off of.
One of
and
my
she's not
jokes.
here. No, that's like 4.
No, I did one and he did one earlier.
Whatever.
When did I do one?
At the beginning of the show.
You guys need to stop it.
It was like a
you
joke
need to be
combo.
able. You need to be able to adjust to different.
All right.
We'll combos of the show.
We'll insult Callie instead. Is that better?
That old chestnut.
I'm just saying, like
because you have no nuts.
Come on, you guys can do better than this. There's no one to even like. Oh, come on, guys! Like, no one's gonna even.
Are you still talking?
No one's even gonna bother fucking trying to call you out on that.
I'm really hungry for nuts now.
You're always hungry for nuts.
Callie can help you out
as in
with that.
testicles. Anyway,
no, that's Callie.
So anyway. I think that the opportunity for Amy Hennig to come in, not just as a part of Crystal Dynamics, but also as a part of Square Enix, and lend the ability to have vision to a project. Again, being responsible for Legacy of Kain, being responsible for much of the Uncharted series, I think that she has a really good ability to develop a very compelling game that draws players in, and I think that has been missing from the core of a lot of Square Enix developed games. So I think that there is an opportunity for her to help out with other projects other than just what Crystal Dynamics is doing.
I just think the timing on this is real interesting.
It is.
Visceral Studios gets shut down, and a week later, Crystal Dynamics is putting out some Legacy stuff.
But whatever went into this, they didn't all conspire within a week. I'm sure that people within either Visceral or Amy herself, whatever's going on, this has probably been building for a while.
Well, I'm sure at some point Amy probably saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
And at that point, maybe that was when a reach out happened.
An interesting read, actually, if you head over to Penny Arcade, their most recent comic strip didn't even have a punchline. Like they straight up took aim at whoever the main guy who probably was the one who put the final decision or the final nails in Visceral's coffins. They're not happy over at Penny Arcade. Like straight up the strip just flat out calls them a coward and basically tells them that they're ruining the industry.
Oh no!
Damn!
It's not
a
subtle
Penny Arcade
or thinly veiled in any way. They're just fuck you guys.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we'll definitely be hitting on more on that later on in the show today.
Yeah, for sure.
A new division of Sony called Unties is going to be publishing games for other systems such as PC and Switch. Tiny Metal is the first to be announced, along with 3 other projects, 2 of which are listed as being for PC/to be announced, which I assume will mean Switch eventually.
I mean, I think that's a pretty big deal. The fact that Sony would start to be moving out of their own wheelhouse. And
so are we going to get the Halo on the Switch?
I'm sorry, what?
Holy hell. What company makes Halo?
Sony? The Unties.
I don't even know how to respond to that.
I'm lost.
What are you fucking doing?
Halo?
What are you doing?
What games does Sony make nowadays? Because I don't really remember of any.
Yeah, we're going to get Uncharted for Switch.
First of all, why are you whispering today?
Why?
Yeah. I keep having to fucking move the fucking volume of your mic. I'm just taking your fucking mic away. Forget it. You got to go back to yelling.
Oh, okay. I'm comfortable with that.
Well,
great. We're happy you're comfortable. Anyway, so yeah.
What the fuck? What was that?
I don't know what just happened. I'm lost. Sony developing for other systems. Let's reset here. That's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the company that has now been the one basically called out for not doing crossplay is, they say they're going to develop for other systems, one of their subsidiaries.
Well,
how long has it been since they've done that?
Listen, in that 2.5 minutes of complete retardation, there was one.
Correct.
There was one good question in there, and that is, what does Sony even make anymore? What does Sony directly develop? They do oversee a couple of good franchises. Legend of Dragoon is one of them that I can think that Sony developed themselves. They do. Every once in a while they do projects, but I can't. I'm trying to think of another Sony directly made. Death Stranding is Sony. Is a Sony project.
How long ago was Legend of Dragoon?
That was PlayStation 1,
yeah.
but they've been brewing about a remake for years. So that's, if they have a wider distribution plan, maybe, I don't know. That's the thing is I can't actually name that many franchises that Sony develops directly.
Yeah, they so many of their games are third party. 95% of what comes out for PlayStation 4 is third party?
Yeah. Yes, it made with Sony's help.
Sure.
But I'm trying to think, because you just, before a lot of Sony games, you see the Sony Interactive thing come up, and I'm trying. I know that there's a few, and there's some good ones, but I can't think. Nothing's coming to mind.
Well, maybe that kind of says it all. Is that nothing's really coming to mind? Because when you mention Crystal Dynamics, immediately you're all over some of the games that they've made. Or you mention, Naughty Dog, you've got a bunch of them done to mind. Sony developed titles? Not really. I've thought of them as a hardware maker forever.
Well, yeah.
God of War, thank you, Dad. There you go.
Or a publisher. Obviously, they publish a lot of stuff too. I think, though, the biggest thing out of here, especially after talking about this, the 50 Xbox units per week metric. Like, if I'm Microsoft and I'm already having problems with people buying my consoles, and now I hear that my biggest, most successful competitor is, in essence, kind of going to be like helping push the little guy, because we always look at Nintendo as being like, the outlier of them, even though, yes, they do perform better than Microsoft. Like, we already talked about how, they're getting games like Doom's coming. We have Wolfenstein 2 is coming to the Switch as well. Like, they're starting to get games that are rivaling Xbox. Like, games that I would buy on the Switch over the Xbox.
Hang on, this is actually kind of the second time this week that we've talked about this, because now we're back at SIE, because Sony's game publishing arm is SIE worldwide.
And that's the thing is they own so many different companies.
And they do, and there are so many different companies that sort of publish on underneath them. You've got Japan Studio, which is everything from Ape Escape to Legend of Legaia to Rogue Galaxy. I'm just looking here. Knack, Bloodborne was part of that. You know what I mean? Like,
they've got a lot of good titles under their name.
Yeah, Legend of Dragoon was one that they list under their Japan Studio.
Ratchet and Clank.
Ratchet and Clank. And the thing is you got to look first party too, because they've got a lot of second party. But Naughty Dog is first party under them. Crash Bandicoot, Jak and Daxter, Uncharted, Last of Us. You've got Ben Studio, San Diego Studio, which is MLB The Show, NBA Series,
they
Mod
have their
Nation
fingers
Racer.
in a lot of pies.
They do. And the fact that some of these could start coming to other platforms. Sucker Punch Studios, which is responsible for the Sly Cooper series and the Infamous series. I think Sly Cooper on the Switch would be fucking awesome.
Perfect.
That would be awesome.
It would be
like
so
rated
good.
home.
Right. Like, and we know that Sony is not shy about republishing titles and republishing stuff that they've worked on. There's a lot of potential here.
I guess my biggest question is, I feel like this would benefit Nintendo more than it would Sony, don't you think?
I think it would. I don't know about that.
Unless they're looking at giving certain games a different life. Like, they recently did a Sly Cooper 4 that I don't know how well received it was, right, on the PS4.
Right.
But when you look at, how the Switch targets, families and younger audiences, it would probably do a lot better on the Switch, right?
That's the thing is, like, the Switch does kind of hit a different demographic. I mean, there's a lot of overlap, but it is a fundamentally different demographic that you're going for with a Switch. It might do them real well to release some of their games on that system.
And again, the story said that they're looking to publish for the Switch and for PC.
PC, yeah. With
Microsoft. Microsoft's not on there. I think you have the greatest crossover there, with Microsoft. I think that we're talking about taking some of these long-standing Sony exclusive franchises and branching them out. There's only and if you think about it, Sony has waited as long as they possibly fucking can to do this, right? They've got some Sony exclusive classics reaching all the way back to their first system, PlayStation 1, that have never been made available on any other platform.
You know what else?
And now they have look at what Square Enix has been able to do with republishing their old games for fucking PC. This is just gonna print money for Sony. I think that this is going to be a remake factory at first.
Yes, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think that Sony's probably using Nintendo more so than the other way around. Because imagine, we talk about how many games, because of the development costs, that they don't quite make what they want to. You look at a game, let's say it's not sold enough, we need just a little bit more to eke out a profit. All right, let's put it out on the Switch now.
But to your point though is, also we're at a point where hardware is good enough among all three of these systems, including the Switch, which is also mobile, that you could run PlayStation 3 games on a Switch pretty easily. I really do think that publishers are going to start seeing the Switch as presenting the biggest opportunity to republish games, because and the thing is to readdress your question about who this benefits more. Does it benefit Sony or does it benefit Nintendo? Nintendo. I got to tell you, just knowing that, and if they put a plan out in the public, like, this is what we're going to do, we're going to start bringing PlayStation 1 classics to a variety of different hardwares, including PC and the Switch, that does increase the value of getting a Switch. Like, that suddenly takes owning a Switch and really gives it supreme value. And I also think that may be Sony conceding the handheld market.
I was just going to ask that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because all the reasons that I want to get Vita, if they announce that, then basically
it's done.
I want to get a Switch instead. I don't need a Vita.
It's fucking done. There's no reason to get a Vita.
Yep.
And from Nintendo's standpoint too, you gotta be kind of thrilled, because at the end of the day, one of the major complaints around your Switch was, where are the games? And while they have gone to great lengths to start addressing that, and they really have, this would really close that gap.
But it was made abundantly clear by the Wii U that Nintendo cannot be the only one. Because if they are the only one, it will crumble and it will fail. Because that's essentially what happened with the Wii U.
Yeah, it started out strong and there was not enough support.
There was so little third-party development that it took Sony's intellectual properties to prop up the system to not even like break even or do well, but I mean to just even be passable as a system. And look at how quickly they've moved off.
They forked over a huge bag of money to Platinum Angels to make Bayonetta 2 a Wii U exclusive because they needed it.
Right. Now, listen, I don't want to be called the Alex Jones of of the video game world. I mean,
all right. What are you gonna go with, Captain InfoWars?
But I have a little bit of a conspiracy to put out here.
Oh boy, here we go.
Do you think that maybe among the big three gaming manufacturers that there might be a little bit of market collusion going on here? Because if Sony's dropping their hardware or their handheld hardware, it means that Nintendo has literally no competition. Sony's also making moves to be able to publish for the only handheld market that's left, which is Nintendo's. So Sony is essentially conceding the handheld market to Nintendo, and there's not that much overlap between, like, there's not that much overlap appeal for the Switch as a console as it exists,
as like a direct competitor to PS4 and Xbox One.
Right.
Yeah.
But so it's more seen like, I think by Switch owners that is more seen as like a side function or an additional bonus, like a really good way, a very effective way to be able to do remote play on your handheld, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
As opposed to the core function of the system, which is a little bit more handheld. Am I right or am I wrong?
No,
about that?
I can definitely see that happening, because and whether or not there's any actual collusion going on, it already starts to look like they're sort of taking control of where they're strongest. Obviously Nintendo has their handheld market on lock. Sony has, as far as consoles go, is by and far the king, and really Microsoft is even kind of screwing themselves with this whole buy a game, get it for both PC and Xbox One, right? So Microsoft kind of has the PC market there.
Well, but it's I don't know if it's necessarily collusion, but it's the same sort of shit that you see with like cable companies.
Yes.
And where they purposely don't compete with each other because they realize, like, wait a minute, this pie is big enough.
Exactly. There's more money to be made if we're not competing with each other.
Exactly.
That's a remarkably good point. Would that I don't know that would necessarily be that unfair, because at least at first, a lot of those decisions are going to seem really consumer friendly, right?
At first,
yeah.
Eventually, they'll be like Comcast.
Maybe.
Or they could be. That's one possible ending.
Well, I think that's a valid concern. It's a valid concern. But the thing is I think that there is some real opportunity there, where if gaming companies stopped looking at their old games and just publishing them to their own systems and looked at taking their old software and publishing it across a range of different hardwares, that is very consumer friendly, at least at first, right? Like, right. I don't have anywhere where I'm going with this where I have like a future dire warning. But the thing is it does seem like there is a little bit of like like synergy or something that is shaking out. And I think, E3 this year might be really, really interesting. to find out.
I want to see a Sony executive give a presentation at the Nintendo Direct Treehouse.
Listen, man, I think when Ubisoft and Nintendo did kind of their joint project, and everyone was really, really receptive to that. That opened up, I think, a lot of possibilities here.
People are almost tired of the competition at this point, of the whole the console wars.
Yes.
Like, if I have to hear the word console wars again, I'll be sick.
At least it was a real war back in Nintendo and Sega days.
But here's the thing. I think what people have gotten past is, look, compete in your current generation and widen the amount of devices that I can play older stuff on. If Square Enix's business model has proved anything, it's that people do want to play your old games, but they definitely don't want to have to be locked into playing them on maybe their PlayStation 4s, right? Like, they want a variety of different options to be able to play them on. And again, I do think that Sony has already kind of conceded the handheld market with the way that they're not really supporting the Vita at all with software anymore. And so to take the next step and go, okay, well, we're actively going to take titles that we would have thought did well on the Vita and now develop them for the Switch, or redevelop them for the Switch. I think that's a remarkably smart idea on Sony's part. And if that's what they're doing, man, I think that's great, but again, just ready to be spending more money on it, because you're going to have to rebuy all of that shit.
And you're also right. We do need to put out there that we don't know that this is what Unties is going to do. This just seems like the logical conclusion.
Right, yeah. We are connecting dots where there are not necessarily dots. But that's why I prefaced it by saying I don't want to be the Alex Jones of gaming, because I might be lying right now.
Can you tell us how the Switch is going to further the homosexual agenda?
Yeah, because you can put those
rooftop parties.
Because you can put those Joy-Cons in your butt.
That too.
That's how
they are
because they are undercover sex toys for the gay agenda.
And rooftop parties.
Dear God.
I mean, only gays go to rooftop parties, right? Am I right? You've been to rooftop parties, right?
No, even I'm not going to a
He's not
rooftop
attractive
party.
enough to go to a rooftop party.
Oh, rude. Tencent has released a new game that is strangely Orwellian. In the game, you clap for President Xi Jinping as he gives a speech. Players are given a snippet of the speech and then tap the screen as much as possible within 19 seconds to applaud. So far, the game has been played more than 400 million times.
Awesome!
I mean, to be fair, Flappy Bird was downloaded an obscene amount of times.
That's true.
So I don't know that necessarily means anything.
That the number doesn't matter?
Yeah, I don't think that necessarily means anything. It is pretty Orwellian, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
clap as your president gives a speech. Can you imagine Trump pulling that shit?
Yeah.
Oh, God, I can.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I can.
Very easily. Very, very easily. Mandated at all of his rallies.
White House published games. I could just see it now.
Why are you continuing to whisper? What the fuck is going on today?
They might be listening.
What the fuck is going on today? He's like sitting here, and everything he's saying is like this.
Because they might be listening to us.
What? Don't do that.
You have to be very quiet when you're in a house with a sleeping baby in it.
Oh my God. It's ruined your ability to talk loud?
You're not in a house with a sleeping baby.
The babies are everywhere.
Oh my God.
They're in the walls. If you talk too loud, they start crying.
Listen, Chris, stop putting your baby in the walls. We've told you this like several times.
No, it's a different one. I went into the wall, there was a different baby in there.
You know, it's better he's putting them in the walls than putting them with steak.
How do you have multiple babies now?
I don't know. They just get into like the walls, like the floor, like crawling like bugs.
Babies are not bees, okay? You don't just end up with walls full of babies. You can end up with walls full of bees very easily. Shockingly easily.
Yeah, that happened to me.
I mean, it's happened to several people that I know. And I'm not just talking like there's a large bee's nest in a section of your house. Like, I'm talking there's an entire room and you've got people who have torn out all of the drywall and they're just taking honeycomb after honeycomb. Like, just
how do you let that many bees into your house? Or outside your house?
How do you not notice that, like, the buzzing and like, couldn't you feel like it feels
the vibration?
Yeah. It's insane.
Man, I can't get this poster to hang on this wall anymore. What the hell?
This is how they get those stupid shows like on the the home improvement networks where these hillbillies are going around just removing all of these insects.
Diamolo says he had bees coming through his bathroom wall before. That's exactly what happened to me. Like my whole section of where I live in my basement was just bees.
Yeah.
Everywhere. And it was like all summer long. We could not get rid of those fuckers.
And the thing is somebody asked the question, well, how do you let that many bees outside? Like, how many of us go outside that often? Like,
no, not frequently.
not often enough to notice bees.
Not to mention, they pop up a lot quicker than you'd think.
A whole fucking wall of bees?
No,
Come on.
By the time that they start spreading out into your room as opposed to just hanging out on the wall, there are a ton of them.
Yeah.
Like, it was a while before I actually started noticing them flying around in there, but when I started to, then it started happening fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
No, and notice it, like you fucking yell into the microphone and it's fucking super loud because you're whispering half the goddamn show. Like, fucking talk like a normal person.
Vocal consistency.
Seriously.
My consistency is that whenever I have something really important to say, that's when I get really loud.
No, apparently when you have something to say, you get really quiet and you start whispering. Fuck. Is this your first time doing this? I swear to God, it's like we haven't been doing this for 11 years now.
11 years now.
Jesus.
God damn it.
The new Nintendo Switch update has a couple of big changes coming to it. One is a video capture feature that is reminiscent of the PlayStation Capture and Share feature. The other allows data to be transferred between systems. Finally.
That's kind of a core fun. I mean, even the 3DS had that. Come on, guys. Come on, Nintendo.
You know, I worked
for all of those who have bought a Switch and accidentally broke it.
You know what I mean?
Like, that's heartbreaking.
Yep. I'll let him know now. He can finally switch all his data over to a new one.
Yeah, he gets the privilege of spending another $400. Right? Like, that
can't see. Like, that's the only thing about these handheld systems is I would be horrified if I dropped one and broke it.
Yeah.
Like,
and you're not horrified when you drop your phone?
I am. Oh my God!
It's basically the same thing.
I did that. I was going out to get in an Uber and I dropped my phone, and it was on the steps. It was on the steps outside on the to my building. Like, that's the worst possible place because it's gonna bounce a couple of times too. Fortunately, nothing happened, but it's like is a fucking like heart-stopping moment.
My last phone, like it dropped on my floor, landed on the screen face down, and so it just cracked. But unfortunately, the digitizer underneath it also cracked, so like wouldn't recognize my finger anymore.
That sucks.
So yeah, I couldn't use it all. I had to go get that repaired. That was like $200 to repair.
That's not fun. It's not fun at all. And yeah, I hate dropping electronics. There's nothing that will make your gut sink faster.
Especially like when it lands face down and you're just like, please. All right, thank God.
How about if you drop your baby? That would make your heart sink faster.
I wouldn't know.
Not mine.
I wouldn't know. How many times have you dropped your baby?
Like full on dropped?
Yeah.
0.
All right. What about like half drops?
Well, I mean,
what about near catches?
Still 0.
How many times have you?
But could have dropped if I'm not like such a good at holding. Like a few.
You know,
good at holding.
You know, foot saves don't count. Okay.
No, not foot save. Just by like you like pick up the baby and she just like suddenly randomly like jerks. You got to be prepared for that. So good thing I'm a ninja warrior. So I'm able to react on instinct.
What you're saying is that when your baby has a seizure, you just grab her and hold her real tight. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or if you start to lose it, then you just kind of like bounce her up and like toss her and then re-catch her.
Okay.
Lord Chow Yun Fat.
She doesn't
good at holding.
She doesn't have teeth, so I guess you don't have to worry about her biting her tongue. So.
Is that a thing you have to worry about?
When people have a seizure,
if someone has a seizure, yeah,
they might bite off their tongue.
Yeah,
it's terrifying.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend.
An interesting interview with Game Freak has talked about how developing Ultra Sun and Moon is actually helping them develop for the Switch and future titles. They've apparently got a lot of their new young blood working on Ultra Sun and Moon, while the bulk of their veteran staff is focusing on the Switch title.
Nice.
Okay, so a lot of people have speculated about why exactly that is, and I think that the fact that people who have taken apart the game code have found the higher res models have found, I think what they're talking about is a lot of the graphical underpinnings, because there was such a departure, at least visually, in Sun and Moon from all of the previous games, right?
Yes,
like
absolutely.
I think you can trace a lot of the art style and the way that the game functioned at its core back to, all the way to the roots. Like even Oris, you could tell worked on a grid system, and it's just a better looking version of everything that came before it.
Sure.
Where Sun and Moon, your movements were a lot more fluid. You could tell that they kind of had reworked the thing from the ground up. And I think that's sort of what they're talking about, is that, they've got a lot of the engine work done. They've got a lot of the graphics work done. And they've taken their veteran team, that's who's been working on the Switch, and they've got this new team working on the 3DS version. That I think that's great, because I did visually like the style of Sun and Moon. I just did not like the region that much. Alola was not my favorite region. Yeah. But the thing is, like after learning that, the next game in the series that we were going to get is Ultra Sun and Moon, and the more that we've learned about it, I'm actually really, really looking forward to Ultra Sun and Moon. I mean, there's definitely a couple of reasons. First of all, I think that the competitive scene is going to get a lot more fun, because we're now moving away from being limited by the Alolan decks to now having the national decks, and including Mega Stones and Mega Evolution in the VGC format. So I think that the meta is going to shift so much that it's going to be fascinating to watch. So that's I think the first thing that I'm looking forward to. And now, of course, when you add the national decks, the other thing that you have to do is you have to add a way for for players to be able to obtain all of the old legendaries, since everything has to have the Sun and Moon marker on it to be VGC applicable.
You think that Ultra Sun and Moon is going to be like Oris was then?
Yeah, no, they've already said that you're going to be able to collect old legendaries. Wow, they've confirmed that in interviews.
Like you have to go to the place where the Ultra Beasts come from, right?
Right, that each one of the legendaries is going to have their own Ultra Beast space that you go into.
Okay. Ultra Beast safe space? Where they're safe.
You are just whiffing today.
Hipster Pokemon.
Doubling down.
Maybe the couple of new ones that they've shown off.
Oh, God. All the new Ultra Beasts look like shit, don't they?
One.
We're going to get a giant, vape Ultra Beast now.
Oh, God damn it. Don't even put that out there.
Look,
they'll use that.
I think the thing that excites me most from this article, too, is they also mention how with Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, or with Sun and Moon in particular, that they've pushed the hardware to its logical limits, right? We
already knew that.
But he even says, sort of like as what they envision, we can't do Pokemon any better for the 3DS, and
so it's time to move on.
Right, and some of the stuff he says, isn't an absolutely hard confirm. It's strongly alluding to the fact that, Pokemon is going from here out, move to the Switch.
Yeah, which I think is really exciting, because that means that we're going to have, the first true console version of a Pokemon game that you can play on a main screen. And the thing is that you don't have to sacrifice any of the core features of Pokemon to do that, because it still has that handheld aspect to it.
Well, what I'm looking forward to is, when we first got X and Y, that was probably the biggest upgrade from any one generation to the next, right? And all the different changes and stuff.
And then they took a lot of it away. With the PSS and being able to find other players and stuff like that, they put it into the Friend Plaza and then it sucked.
That unfortunately is true, but I think we still saw a lot of growth between the Black and White generation and X and Y, and I'm hoping we will see another gigantic jump between Sun and Moon and whatever ends up on the Switch.
The Switch title will be there will be parts of the Switch title that I think you're like, wow, this doesn't even feel like Pokemon. This is something very different.
This thing has 60 frames a second.
Here's the thing. Here's what I genuinely hope is that, because Game Freak has been so dead set on Pokemon is a handheld game. I hope that the core game is the Pokemon game, but that if you switch it to the console version, you get just basically what is Pokemon Coliseum.
Stop.
Yes.
I want to be able to play Pokemon as it is on a console.
No.
on the TV. That's what I want.
No, Game Freak will never let you have that.
Fuck you. That's stupid.
No, you know what? They will, but here's the problem you're going to run into is the grass is going to be super pixelated like in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to be able to stand it.
Look, if I can see the jaggies on my 72-inch screen, then what is the fucking point, all right?
I mean, point taken.
The jaggies. That's a word I've not heard in years.
The jaggies. Anyway.
Yeah, well, Nintendo's bringing it back.
By the way, if you want to give us a call, Final Encountercast on Skype, 810-207-1764. If you want to talk about Pokemon, the Switch, Sony developing for the Switch, whatever you want to talk about, give us a call. Final Encountercast, 810-207-1764.
Stop giving them the option. Call in, fuckers.
Okay.
All right, then.
There.
In what has become and will continue to be a commonly said thing on this show, a new PUBG-style game is in the works. But this one is in VR.
This one is Pokemon.
Yeah. It's got all the hallmarks
Can you imagine a Pokemon PUBG crossover?
Okay, so would you be a trainer or would you be a Pokemon in that?
I think you would have to be a trainer, and you're dropped into an island, and you have to capture Pokemon before you can even battle. So someone comes across you,
and you don't have a Pokemon,
and you don't have a
murder you.
Right, that's
Pokemon
right. They can
attacks you.
Exactly, like the Caterpie that they were able to find. Like you're unarmed, so that Caterpie just string shots your mouth shut, and you just slowly suffocate to death. I don't
Fills your lungs with string.
I haven't worked out all the details yet, but I think it's genius.
But patent pending.
Yeah,
well,
that's right.
If we want to add a trading card element to it, Chris could probably design the whole thing for us right off the top of his head.
Hang on, Chris? Because I don't think we've talked enough about Battlefield or Battlefront 2. Yeah, but is the fact that there are card upgrades in there a deciding factor for you on whether or not you're going to play Battlefront 2?
Okay, so I haven't really done too much research into the actual card system.
No, but I mean, you did play it. You did play it here over the... Yeah.
And I equipped a card and stuff. But as far as I'm concerned, you just, equip the card. So, really, they're just using the word card as, a term for, ability or weapon or something. So, in essence, it's not a card system.
Well, but...
Let's call it what it is. It's just an ability system or items. An item system. It's not a card game.
We know that. We know that. But,
okay.
But, I mean, the thing is that it's supposed to activate dumb motherfuckers like you to go, oh, there are cards? Oh, I'm buying it.
I don't know.
Let's just call a spade a spade.
Now that I think about it,
it's funny because it's also a card reference.
Well, yeah, but if you think about it, Battlefront has class-based roles now, has cards, so really it's like a TCG MOBA.
That is the original TCG MOBA. It's amazing.
Can we also put Firefly-esque aspects in there too?
It's sci-fi, so
it's in space. Yeah.
Is it roguelike?
Yes.
It is a roguelike Firefly.
It needs to be roguelike.
First-person MOBA card game.
That's right.
And you gain levels, so it's like an MMORPG as well.
I think there needs to be a sub-card game that's like Cards Against Humanity, where you're coming up with all of the different dialogue options.
I like this.
Oh my god.
Oh, that might have been too far for him.
Stop.
That's the one that got him.
Did we just give him cancer?
Cards Against Humanity is no. Stop it.
Hey, white people love white people.
You draw the line at Cards Against Humanity.
That game is so bad now.
He'll jack off to videos of people opening packs of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, but he draws the line at Cards Against Humanity.
Did you know every single time I've ever played that with him, he always plays white people love white people. Every time.
Well,
does it win every time?
Surprisingly, it does not, which is very upsetting.
Just the fact that you managed to get both of the two white people cards by the time that comes around is statistically it shouldn't happen.
He's cheating.
Yeah, he's stacking the deck.
Yeah, have you never played card games before? That's how you win.
That must be why you're so bad at the digital ones, because you can't.
That's for sure.
Well, anyway, this game, this VR game has got
we already talked about the Pokemon PUBG game. Why are we going back to this?
Yeah, what we came up with is a million times better than whatever there. Oh, and it of course would be also in VR as well.
Oh, well, fair point. Believe me, I actually agree with you. I'd much rather Pokemon than this. Well, who wants to play a PUBG game with only 16 players?
What?
It's only got 16 players.
Well, because obviously VR isn't popular enough to.
Right. They don't want to. Exactly. They're building it on a smaller map with 16 players because they're concerned about the number of people who have VR.
Here's the problem. At that point, it's not Battle Royale. It's just a death match.
Yeah, you can just call it deathmatch.
That's no different. Basically, you're taking what they've been doing, forever since Perfect Dark and GoldenEye and being like Battle Royale.
But you drop in on a plane and scavenge items.
Oh, of course, because that's what makes PUBG so exciting. They're not even trying.
And I'm dude, every time I see Fortnite, I'm annoyed. I get annoyed every time I fucking see it.
Is there any building or Minecraft aspect to this game?
Not that they've listed.
No, because I'm out. Fortnite is shitty.
I'm out then, man.
They're not going to copy the copycat.
Can I honestly, did they build Fortnite in World of Warcraft's old engine? Not their current engine, but the engine they were using before their last graphic
vanilla?
upgrade? Yeah. Well, not quite vanilla. They've done 2 graphics upgrades, right? Okay, fine.
Maybe
then vanilla.
Maybe in Cataclysm.
Fine, whatever. But it looks so shitty. I'm like, no wonder this guy, like everyone's like, yeah, but I can run it in 60 frames per second. Yeah, that's because a fucking Raspberry Pi could run it in 50 frames per second. Fuck off. You're not special.
Yeah, it's not good.
You're not paying anything for this game, and you can run it really well on your shit toaster computer.
I'm a PC gamer now, guys. I play Fortnite.
Shut up, you fucking poor. Go buy a real computer. Play PUBG like a real man. Go get killed. Dude, yesterday, I fucking ate it to a kill that I had no right. I had the drop on him and everything.
And he got you?
And he got me.
Oh, those moments are brutal. You see him, he just turned away from you, start shooting, you whiff your first 3 shots, he turns and plugs you, and you're like,
Meanwhile, when that's you, they could whiff 7 times, and you're still trying to figure out where the fuck they are.
Yeah.
I went down, and I had level 2 body armor, level 2 helmet too. I don't know how I went down that fast. It was ridiculous. Anyway, but yeah, no, I fucking Fortnite's a pile of shit. What is this VR game? Did we finish talking?
Yeah,
about it?
We're pretty much good now.
What's the name of it?
Who fucking knows? PUBG VR, as far as I care.
You didn't even put the name of the goddamn.
No, I'm not playing it, and I don't care. All right, talking about Resident Evil 7.
Okay.
Oh,
something good.
Okay, wait, no, I got the name, guys. Don't worry.
What is it?
It's called Virtual Battlegrounds.
Oh, so that's why. Great.
Can we all just walk out?
See you later, guys. We're out. All right, so Resident Evil 7 has now shipped over 4 million copies, though this still falls well short of Capcom's lifetime projection of 10 million. With a new DLC and expansion on the way, sales should pick back up, but it's highlighted the remarkably high sales metrics companies have in mind for their AAA titles. 10 million for a Resident Evil game?
We kind of touched on this a little bit when we behind closed doors talked about again what we're going to talk about later with Visceral Games, because what was it? Dead Space 2 sold around 4 million as well. And even as far as horror games go, with the body horror and stuff, that's even kind of like a niche game, right?
Yeah.
Gosh, 10 million actually does seem like a lot. I mean, obviously it's a Resident Evil game, which even in the horror genre is a big one. And when you look at Resident Evil 4 and 5, that's when they kind of got a little bit more away from horror and more into like an action-y, away from the survival horror, more into like action horror, right?
Yeah.
I think that probably drew in a lot more people. But 7 was a big one. Do you remember the pop-off that they got at E3?
Yeah, well, because of the trailer, no one even realized it was Resident Evil.
Exactly. Yeah. Like it's kind of been out of the limelight for a while, and this was like a real, return to form.
I was impressed though when it passed 3 million units shipped. Like, that was really good.
Has it been a year yet?
It has been. Has it been a year?
I bought it
I think it's a year this month, isn't it?
I bought it the week it came out, and I brought it to a meeting of Checkpoint. So if it's been around a year, 4 million in a year.
Yeah, no, it was first quarter that it released.
Yeah, January 2017.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, but still, so it's been about a year and a half, a little bit more. But still, if it's done 4 million and they're talking about 10 million lifetime, maybe
you're not gonna get 6 million more copies.
No way.
In the lifetime, even when they start putting out like greatest hit, do they even still do that stuff?
Get the fuck out of here!
Are you kidding me? There's no way.
You have to double what you've already sold. You're not gonna double that.
Yeah.
More than double.
My prediction at this point would be 6 million for your lifetime.
What about when they put it out on the Switch?
Little kids can't play that shit. It's scary. I'm gonna have nightmares.
Five Nights at Freddy's begs to differ.
Yeah.
Five Nights at Freddy's is a completely different animal from the fucking old guy who chases you down in the car. I mean,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
it is. I'm like, I think younger people do play horror games. Like, nothing stopped me from playing Resident Evil 2.
Right.
So, I mean, younger people can play it. I just don't know that it's going to get you to 10 mil.
Is the 10 million number just what they project, or is that what they need to turn a profit?
That was Capcom's lifetime sales projection.
Okay, so they don't necessarily need that to turn a profit, though.
No, I'm sure the game is relatively close to profitable where it's at now, at 4 million. I would hope it's relatively close. But then again, they did a lot of marketing for that shit.
They did?
And that's kind of the main theme of our discussion today. So, Nate, I'm going to throw it back to you and let you take us into that.
So, EA has shut down Visceral Studios.
They have.
They have. Which, you know, if you don't know, Visceral Studios was the studio that made Dead Space and all of the subsequent sequels. They were working on a Star Wars project spearheaded by Amy Hennig, of course, who we talked about earlier of Legacy of Kain and Uncharted.
The project was Ragtag.
Fame. Right. The project was known as Ragtag, and apparently the assets from that game have all been shifted over to Worldwide, again, who we talked about over the course of the show, who has a huge stable of talent at their disposal to be able to kind of farm this game out to. And so I'm confident that we'll end up seeing, what happens, with the project. But Amy Hennig's future with EA uncertain, whether or not she's going to end up following the Ragtag project or whether or not she's going to take a different opportunity elsewhere.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, certainly Crystal Dynamics seems to be kind of hinting at something in the works, maybe.
Yeah.
That definitely remains to be seen. But I think this decision has definitely been a divisive one.
Very.
There have been a lot of people who are really upset at the way that EA handled Visceral.
Like Penny Arcade.
Penny Arcade is one of them. And the thing is that it does sort of feel like when you look at some of these sales projections and sales expectations, how could you even possibly meet some of those?
Well,
you know what I mean?
One of the developers who worked on Dead Space 2 actually came out talking about that, saying like, listen, we moved 4 million copies and we did not turn a profit. Because not only was our budget $60 million, but the marketing costed $60 million.
Right.
Which to me highlights just, first of all, a big problem with how your games are being funded. $60 million in marketing? Are you fucking kidding me?
Well, I think that this really exposes one of the big problems with AAA development, especially when it doesn't go very well. Because, a lot of times we sit here and we, of course, when, Performance Matters and the SAG-AFTRA conflict was at its height. We talked about how voice actors were seeking residuals after a certain point that a game becomes successful.
2 million.
At 2 million units.
2 million units moved, yeah.
Well, but I think that presents a lot of problems because even
at 4 million, they're still not in the red. They're still in the black.
Exactly.
In the red, rather.
In the red,
yeah.
right. And we see now the same thing with Resident Evil 7 as well. So the sales projections, I think, definitely have to be reined in, but that also means that the budgets, not just for game development projects, but also for, as you had brought up, marketing will also have to shrink. And I think that, when you shrink both of those things, you will start seeing diminishing returns on how many people buy your product. So it is a difficult catch-22 that a lot of video game companies find themselves in, trying to balance their budget and sales expectations. And I don't know that there's necessarily a good answer for this, because I think that this is really the way that AAA game studios have sort of worked. That this is what they've worked themselves into.
Well, there's not a logical or smart answer for it, because I think we as the consumers just look at it and we're like, look, if you make a good fucking game, it will sell, right? But of course, their bottom line is they don't necessarily think about, let's make a good game so it can sell. They want to sell on pre-orders, right? Like they want to reach certain numbers by whatever markets. And the way to do that, in their eyes, is 60 million in advertising, which is ridiculous. Yeah, but especially considering, like, obviously, Dead Space was coming out. I knew that. Okay, but I myself don't feel like I saw $60 million worth of advertising, and if that was all just TV spots. Another thing that they need to do, if you don't want to spend as much in marketing, maybe get a little bit more creative with your fucking marketing.
Well, that's the thing, though. They weren't marketing to you because, like you said, you knew Dead Space was coming out. Yeah. To Joe Schmo, who plays the Halo, like, he doesn't know what a Dead Space is. Well, but if he sees, there's space and there's aliens and there's dead people, I might play that.
But I mean, look at the way that we've picked apart a lot of the FF14 Stormblood marketing decisions, right?
That's like a completely different
thing. That's because we're so tuned into that game, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if it's a game that we're less tuned into, Destiny 2 did something very similar with Pop-Tarts. We did not spend a whole lot of time bemoaning that, mostly because none of us are really that emotionally attached to Destiny 2 as a game. We notice it more with FF14 because that's a game that we're very invested in.
You know, I did see that Pop-Tart ad. I was like, Pop-Tarts, I'm going to buy this. I was like, there's a person on here. I'm going to look at this. Oh, it's for Destiny 2. And then I just threw it in my cart.
But I'm just, my point is that I think that there's a lot of that stupid schlocky marketing that, as Chris had pointed out, and is actually a pretty good point, it's not aimed at us.
Okay,
because we already know. And again, when you consider, when we criticize things like the Stormblood marketing, we already know about the game. We already have context for it, and so when we look at that, we're trying to see, like, through the lens of, like, if someone wasn't playing that and they came across a Mrs. Freshly's packet. Package. Like, still, would that make them try the game? Would that make them buy it? Or if they saw a billboard, would that make them buy it? I think those are valid questions to ask. But
it's still not an excuse to be lazy about it, though, because clever marketing can still work, regardless of if you already know about it or not, or aren't plugged into it. Let's go back to Destiny 2, right? You obviously knew about Destiny 2, but when you saw the way that there was that where the noodle shop got destroyed, you had Nathan Fillion voicing Cade 6, whatever his name is, right? Yeah. The sort of overall tone and, like, character of that got you interested in Destiny 2, right? So even something like, you don't have to go, like, balls to the walls like Blizzard does and put up 12-foot, statues of your Overwatch action figures in major cities around the world, but get a little bit more creative than just, all right, let's spend $60 million to put a 30 or 60-second Dead Space trailer on major television.
Well, and we can't really rewind the clock to really be able to tell what the marketing around Dead Space 2 was. Like, there's like, we kind of remember that time in our lives, but, like, there's really no way to be able to tell. Okay, so we can't really just write that off as, like, 30 to 60 second ads, and that's all that the $60 million was ever spent on. We just don't know, okay? But I do think that questioning the overall budget for something like Dead Space 2, spending $60 million on their marketing, I think that is valid. I think that is a perfectly valid question to
as much
ask.
In marketing as it took to make the game itself.
But that's actually not that uncommon. Many movies function on a similar budget. The amount of money they get spent on marketing is frequently as much or more than what the movie cost to make.
Okay, but movies aren't floundering in the same way that the AAA video game industry is, are they?
I think Hollywood's had a very bad year, actually.
They're much worse.
Have you seen Ghostbusters?
Way worse.
Yeah.
Way worse.
It's been a very rough decade now for, I mean, we obviously, being geeks, we're very immersed in Star Wars and Marvel, but Disney is the exception to the rule.
But I mean,
Disney can spend $500 million, not bat an eye, because every other movie they make makes $1 billion.
Because even take the Transformer movies, which always perform terribly, but then make up their profit in international markets.
Dude. Okay, you can't really judge the overall quality of Hollywood or movies by the largest franchises or the largest budget films.
Well, we're talking about AAA blockbusters, though.
Dude, you have to look at the way that smaller budget and the way that smaller movies are performing, because they're not. They've moved away from even releasing those types of movies in theaters at all, and just chose to go the Netflix route.
That seems like the reverse problem then. The video game movie has AAA games that are floundering, but indie games are doing well. And then when you look at the movie industry, the blockbusters are doing fine, but the more independent, smaller
the
movies.
blockbusters are actually not doing fine, but the thing is that the people who are making the blockbusters have infinite money to throw at them. Well, that's the difference.
Most, you have your typical, superhero movie or your typical Star Wars movie. Those do very well, but then you look at things like you mentioned Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
What a flop! That didn't even make back half of what it made.
Right.
There was earlier this year the one with Charlize Theron.
Atomic Blonde.
Right.
Such a great movie.
It was a great movie, but it just didn't do well. Baby Driver, as much as I think it's one of the best movies I've ever seen, didn't do that well.
Didn't do well, yeah.
It's those kinds of movies that are it's one step below the Marvel Disney
exactly.
blockbuster.
Those are sort of the more accurate bellwether about how people are consuming movies at the end of the day. Because again, movies are not a ad-driven business. Movies are a one-to-one. They've got to sell tickets. They've got to put butts in seats. And when you look at those sort of middle ground movies, if those audiences are shrinking, that's a bellwether for overall all of Hollywood. The less of those movies are getting made, less of those movies are getting greenlit, and less people are going to go see them.
Absolutely.
But on the other side of that, you also have more opportunities now than ever with digital distribution. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, they're funding their own projects. If you can't do that, you've got crowdfunding, you've got, Dailymotion and Vimeo and all of these different methods to distribute, and then there's of course YouTube. So it's not like you're relying on the same system to get your work viewed as you used to in the independent movie scene, but that has also translated into less investment in movies like that, less chances being taken by movie studios, and less interesting overall movies that come to theaters, and that hurts the theaters because that's a different business, right? Theaters are run independently of the movies that are coming out. So Hollywood may be able to make up that difference in streaming, but theaters as a brick and mortar business can never make up.
And they just suffer for it.
Yeah.
And you'll see lots of theaters will start with we have a theater here on Main Street that they will just find old big movies to play all the time.
Oh yeah.
The other night you go see Halloween on the big screen again. Awesome.
You see a lot of that starting to pop up. So all right, bring this back to games then. If the AAA video game industry is ballooning, if it's not able to sustain itself, then hopefully that means that we're going to see some changes, right? Maybe they're not going to be spending as much money on these games.
Oh no. We are seeing the changes. We've already been seeing the changes.
Yeah.
They're called microtransactions. They're called loot boxes. They're called alternative ways of funding your game when $60 isn't enough anymore.
And that's the thing is that, what we as gamers have to realize and sort of accept is that, games that used to have sales margins of 10 million now have smaller audiences as they continue to be sequelized and move on. And so, the ability to add, secondary funding methods is kind of necessary, especially when you have ballooning budgets.
On one of our first episodes of Final Encounter Cast, it was probably in our first 5, I asked the question, is $60 no longer enough to be charging a game? Because the price of a game really has not been keeping up with inflation since the 90s. Games were $50 or $60 in the 90s, and they still are today. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Are we gonna start feeling the pinch of that? Well, here we are.
Well, and again, in the 80s and 90s, when you were working with sprite-based technologies, there was a lot less work that went into the development.
Absolutely.
So
you didn't have to spend 20% of your budget on graphics.
That's right.
Or
yeah,
more.
and you didn't have to spend 5 days worth of work placing toenail clippings on every map. You know what I mean? So it's someone's job to fucking do that shit.
Yep.
Anyway, let's go to our phone lines and talk to Diamelos. What's going on, Diamelos?
It's fine. You guys keep complaining about callers, so I figured I'd call into Feck instead of
about goddamn time.
Can we get this guy some Dino Tracks? He deserves it.
Piece of shit.
Oh God.
No, we're not going to give him Dino Tracks. So what's going on, Diamelos?
Actually, I've got a couple of things to add based on from when I originally started called in. One of the things that I've always wondered is where did they get this marketing data that much money spent on advertising is actually worth it?
That is such a good question because I don't believe it is at all. And I'll tell you what, maybe for video games it might be.
Yeah.
But I don't think it is for movies at all. When I see like the build up to like a Marvel title release, and I'm like, do you think you needed to advertise 7 days a week for this?
Not only that, but there are trailer recuts that come out that ruin the movie for me. That after I see, like. Mother was one of those.
Oh God! Yeah.
Where I saw the first trailer and I was like, I am so down for this.
Hey, another fiscal flop.
I saw the second trailer and I went like, what is this? Some weird like version of a horror movie?
Well,
and then I learned Darren Aronofsky was the one who made it. The first trailer made a whole lot more sense, and then the second trailer actually made a whole lot more sense because no studio in the history of time has ever been able to figure out how to market a fucking Darren Aronofsky movie.
That's not even a problem that Aronofsky has. I mean, recently the newest Kingsman movie, right in the trailer, spoils that one character isn't dead, and the director came right out and he's like, that was supposed to be like the big fucking pull. Nobody should have known about that till the movie, and he's like, going forward from now on in all my contracts, I'm making the fucking trailers.
Dude, and the thing is, one of the things that David Lynch has always said is really critical about his career is that his contract ever since Dune has always assured him final cut. That he gets the final say of what the cut of the print of the film is going to be, and it's never the studio's decision. Studio has to live with it, and they know that from the get-go. And I think as a result of that, he's also been responsible for making a lot of the trailers too. He's not left that up to the studio, and that's the thing is that. For people who know, like what they're doing in marketing and know what the heart of a project is, then the marketing for a project tends to make a lot more sense. It tends to be a lot more cohesive, and you go, oh, okay, and it's not so like jarring when you actually get the product. A lot of people were really upset when they went and saw Mother because they were expecting a schlocky horror movie, and they didn't get that at all. They got something a lot slower, a lot more contemplative, a lot more pensive. So, like that's one of the things that marketing budgets really don't end up addressing or helping with, is especially if you're farming that out to another company.
And that's, I think, one of the biggest problems, like, especially for trailers. If your director isn't the one doing your trailer, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah,
like, how would you ever let that get away from you?
And I think Diamelos brings up a good question: is how exactly do you measure that? Like, who figures out what that budget needs to be able to drive sales? Because I think that something like Dead Space probably could have done 3 to 4 million, maybe probably 3.5 million, on its own without the need for marketing, especially because we're talking about a sequel,
right?
It's got a pretty built-in audience there.
Well.
So what do you need to do for fucking awareness at that point?
I was gonna say, quick numbers: 120 million is what it costs for both development and for advertising it. You need to sell 2 million to make that back up. They sold 4 million.
Well, 2 million if you get all of it. They don't get all $60.
Fair.
Right. The retailer takes a cut of it, and your people that you've licensed stuff out to, they take a cut of it.
Right. Yeah.
They probably, typical.
Their margins were probably more along. They said they needed 10, or at least in the case of Resident Evil, they said they needed 10.
Yeah. Typical production is 50%. So they needed to sell 4 million units to break even if they're running on typical numbers.
And another distinction that we need to make between the video game and the movie industry is that movies have the ability to have a second life once they are out of theaters and they either go to DVD or streaming.
That's
right?
True too.
And there's no ongoing cost associated with keeping them up.
Right, exactly.
Well, there is, but there's a low one.
So you do have a secondary ability to bring in income, and there are plenty of movies who did not do well at the box office that as soon as they either came out, on aftermarket or whatever it is that people could own them, they did quite well. They did very, very well. So, that doesn't exist with video games. Like, there's no secondary market. We talked about it earlier. Like, for as much as video games try to create that secondary market with like greatest hits releases or anything like that, like with
Game of the Year,
remakes. Like they actually have to do something to it, right? Like they've either got to up-res some of the models or update some of the textures. Like there's got to be something to it so that it qualifies for the HD tag, right? So like I think that when we look at the way that video games and movies both spend and make money, I think that has to be a consideration because video games have one chance to get it right. They've basically got one chance to make that impression. If they fail at that, then the entire project fails.
It's done, yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you're Final Fantasy 14.
In
which case you have to fail twice.
I think that's the only exception that I can think of.
And that's why it was such a big deal. Yeah. Because it never happened before.
Yeah. Diamelos, what do you think, like, if it were up to you, what would you do about ballooning marketing budgets around games?
I mean, because from my perspective, I don't watch TV. And I also run an ad blocker on my web browser, so I don't usually see ads in most of the sites I go to. Advertisement to our generation, I would say, is actually less impactful as it has been in the past when it comes to, the 90s games. I don't remember seeing any commercials for many I mean, the only commercial I can remember the 90s.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can you stop flipping whatever like book or papers you're flipping and sit still and stop banging
that's
stuff?
Kooky.
That's
kooky.
If
mic's still open.
Kooky.
Kooky, listen. You can stop being a chef in the background. Like we appreciate it, but it's not necessary. It's not helpful for the show. Anyway, so yeah, like. I mean, I agree with you in theory, Diamelos, that, I don't watch a lot of TV either. I think, if all of that 60 million was based on TV spots, that would be probably not the greatest use. But the thing is that, some of that goes towards buying internet banners and, running ads on
Twitch.
YouTube and Twitch and things like that. Like, we're starting to see a variety of places that games feel comfortable to market. For as you guys had said, or as Diamelos had said, I didn't see a whole lot of TV commercials for games in the 80s and 90s.
No.
Where you saw the bulk of the advertising was in things
Toys
like
R Us.
Game Pro.
Oh.
Yeah, Nintendo Power.
Yeah, because when I would see a video game on TV,
that
was a big deal.
Yeah.
I remember seeing the FF10 on TV for the first time, like when we were sitting down as a family watching TV and being like, "Wow, the new Final Fantasy's on TV." That's so cool.
I do. Yeah, the first couple times, I think it was Halo 2 had some advertising.
Yeah.
When I saw advertising for that game, I was like,
"Hang on,
I remember Halo 1."
I actually no. I remember the exact era when this happened because it was between 1 week and another week where the EBX in my mall, by the way, EBX, not GameStop, not EB Games, EBX,
yeah,
they had gotten a TV and put it in the glass display as you're walking by, and they started running trailers and commercials, and my mind was fucking blown because I was like, oh my god, there's there's video for this kind of stuff,
right? And
it was like a VCR tape that they looped, right? Like it was just it was just like a repeating. It was that long ago, right? Old CRT TV as well, so and the first one that I remember seeing because the first time that I ever saw it, I swear to God, I sat there and I watched it for 10 minutes. Little 10-year-old me just looking up, going, "Oh, I want that, and I want that, and I want that, and I want those, and I want that," and I just fucking annoyed my parents for 15 minutes sitting there watching the entire video twice.
They were probably so happy when you went punk and you didn't want anything.
No, they weren't. Believe me, trust me. But the thing is this was right around the time of Chrono Trigger, because that was the first, or Chrono Cross. I'm sorry, that was the first. That was the very first trailer that I ever saw, and it had Time Scar playing underneath it, and it was like I formed an immediate emotional attachment to that sequence. and I'd never played that game. And I begged my parents for like 2 months after that, please can I go get Chrono Cross? Please can I get Chrono Cross? I didn't know what it was, but that video made such a strong impact on me.
Yeah.
I wanted to own it, and I wanted to play that game. And so yeah, I do think, the way that video game companies have marketed their games over time has shifted and changed. And now there's more options than ever.
I was gonna say, a perfect example. Do you remember how like geeked out we all were for The Evil Within 2 when the cinematic trailer premiered at E3?
Yeah.
And then you and I just saw one, I think, on Twitch the other day, and you go, I so don't give a fuck about this game, because it was showing actual like gameplay, and it was just generic third person over the shoulder.
It looked like The Last of Us 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was The Last of Us 2. That's what I thought it was. That's what I thought we were watching. And then it goes, The Evil Within 2. And I'm like, fuck, okay, all right. It's one of those, I guess.
Yeah, I remember old advertising for games, and you're kind of right, because like outside of like those first few games that had maybe a trailer or a spot that you'd see rarely,
right?
You only really had magazines, and that media is dead.
Oh yeah,
like, you want to talk about a media that's gone.
Over.
No one's pulling out their Nintendo power to figure out what their Christmas wish list is, like I did almost every year.
No one's pulling out their Nintendo power to be able to figure out what the fucking Game Genie codes for a game are. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
whoa! Nintendo Power did not publish that sacrilegious piece of hardware codes for Game Genie.
Okay.
Hashtag fake gamer. Am I right? You're
okay.
Right. Thank you, guy.
Anyway, I like that. That's like the one audible thing he's said all show.
You're welcome.
At least he didn't whisper it.
Yeah, that's my point. Anyway,
watching a VHS, I guess there would be a 5-minute downtime to rewind.
I was gonna say, you realize that was someone's responsibility.
Yeah, right.
Like someone at that EB Games got yelled at by their manager on several occasions because they didn't realize the tape was done and they had to rewind it.
Oh no, I think it was on one of those like automatic VCRs that rewound it for you.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
Okay, fair.
They were ritzy.
They even had ones that it was it had a small digital processor in it, so it would actually like it would take a minute before it would start displaying any video, but it would run the video out of sync for a minute so that it could rewind the whole thing and start from the beginning seamlessly.
Damn.
Yeah, we had a couple of those in my high school video production department.
High tech.
Yeah.
We're so old.
I know, right?
We're so old.
I know. Diamelos, before we let you go, do you have any suggestion that you'd like to put out there? Maybe if a game developer is listening, that would be, creative marketing that they could invest in that would make an impact with you?
I honestly, not really. But the biggest thing is probably no more obscure brand deals. Because that seems the thing that probably inflates the budget way more.
Only Pop-Tarts. Only Pop-Tarts. Only Kellogg's. Only Mountain Dew Code Red.
Mrs. Freshley's.
Doritos.
That's right.
I've never bought a game because it was on a cereal box or something.
Yeah.
That by the way, and actually there's a lot of studies, especially like as for like millennials, how they don't give a shit about any of that stuff anymore. Like sponsorships are worth less now than they've ever been because the upcoming demographic does not care.
The only way that you're getting me to buy something is if it has like a code I can put in to like get free stuff or something. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that'd be so good.
That's the only way. That's the only way.
God.
And even then, it's still got to be something that I would have bought normally anyhow.
Anyway, Diamelos, thanks so much for the call. We've got about 8 minutes left here in the program if you want to make a last-minute call. Final Encountercast on Skype, 810-207-1764. I'm going to put out a piece of marketing that, clever, creative marketing that I think would be really effective, that I've never seen a game company invest in, but I think would be very valuable, very viral, and might actually help expose people to, like maybe a new IP.
Okay.
Right? Because
don't say podcast.
Yeah, I was going to say don't say radio.
Because an IP, I think, is the most difficult thing. A new IP is, I think, the most difficult thing to market, right?
Absolutely.
You have to be, like, if it's not good, then what's the point?
Well,
right?
and not only that, but, we've talked about this before, that gamers feel a lot of times you've got to earn the right to ask for that secondary piece of funding, right?
Oh, you sure do.
For the DLC to be acceptable, right? When people saw it for Watch Dogs, they kind of rejected it out of hand because they were like, this game hasn't earned it yet. And that's pretty fair. I think as consumers, we get the right to make that decision.
And if you think about it, how often do you really praise a game that isn't an already well-established IP?
Exactly. So I'm going to toss out a suggestion for a creative way to market your game that I've never seen anyone do, but I think that, we could help with something like this. And, you guys said podcast, but not like a podcast like this where you're just talking about whatever's going on in the game, but I think an in-game, in-character podcast where things are happening in the universe, like you're telling a section of the story through a weekly podcast. You buy maybe, I don't know, a treatment of 14 episodes, but you don't make it readily obvious that it's connected.
Nate, are you suggesting a roleplay podcast?
He's suggesting an ARG.
No, it's not a role play podcast. It is what it's a drama. It's basically a radio drama.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm into it.
Right, like like radio plays. Right, like that used to be a big thing. If people listen to stuff like Welcome to the Night Vale, this is something that they're very good at. Not Serial, but there was another one that I was listening to. Something Town, not Harmontown, but it was
if you do it well though, and you put it out and it catches on.
Limetown, that's what it is. Limetown.
Yeah, people are then gonna want to know, like if it's good, right? If it's good, obviously, then it's gonna hook people in and make them want to play the game too. It's kind of it's in the same realm as when the new Spider-Man was coming out. You could actually go to the Daily Bugle's website and read all these different stories.
It is viral marketing, and I mean, the
best kind.
The Halo has done viral marketing before.
It's just actually Halo.
I Love Bees. Does anyone remember I Love Bees?
I Love Bees, yeah.
You would go to the site and it looked like it was a blog about beekeeping, except you needed to stay on the page for like 3 minutes, and then it looked like the page was being hacked in real time.
Yep.
Do you guys remember this?
No, I'd forgotten all. I remember now that you mention it, oh yeah, but I completely forgotten about that.
But it was very effective, and I think I really do think that if you wanted to tell maybe the story of the run up to what was happening in game, that if you presented it right, that could be a really good viral way to get some marketing around.
And if you want to talk about the way that millennials consume stuff when it comes to viral sharing and stuff, that's how you get us. Show us some dank memes.
But I do. That's not what I mean by viral. I'm just talking about the way that it spreads.
Yes,
but I mean, it's something that I've never seen before, and the way that our generation consumes things is markedly different. Like we
Absolutely.
know, we've known that for a long time. So I think that is at least trying something that might be more successful long term than just putting your fucking logo on a Mrs. Freshly's package, No,
dude, every time I hear that, I think that has to be made up. But no, we lived it.
Him
and I ate it.
Actually,
you ate it.
Here's one of the problems, though, Nate, because you have to be careful with how much you sink into that. Because if you go and make yourself a movie in an anime series, and then the game sucks, you turn to FF15.
That is true. I mean, the extension of that is sort of like what FF15 tried to do.
Right.
Except, I don't know that seems like a much douchier way to go about. We have an anime. All right, shut up.
And a movie.
Shut up.
Check
dork.
this stuff out before we even played the game.
And then the game is shit. All right. Well, that's going to do it here for Final Encountercast today. Thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate having you along. You can join us every Sunday starting at 1 p.m. here at twitch.tv/Limit Break Radio. Stay tuned. The latest episode of Limit Break Radio is coming to you live at 4 p.m., followed tonight by the latest episode of Checkpoint Radio. Get it before you can stream it over at checkpointradio.com or mixcloud.com/checkpointradio. Stay tuned after 7 o'clock tonight. Also, if you haven't yet, check out the Checkpoint Radio podcast. This week we do an homage to the YouTube show Hot Ones. And let me tell you, we ate some really, really good hot sauce.
Yeah, it was delicious
on that episode. But there was an episode of Hot Ones where they sat down with Terry Crews and talked to him about his experience building a PC with his son and what kind of father-son bonding, what kind of bonding they did with that. So we talk about our experience building PCs and eat some hot chicken, some hot-ass chicken nuggets at the same time. So you can check that out over at checkpointradio.com as well as Apple Podcasts, also known as iTunes. Again, that's going to do it here for Checkpoint Radio today. I want to thank everyone listening, all, 118 of you that are joining us today. FinalEncounterCast.com is the website. You can find our full archive of episodes over there. And you can follow us on Twitter at FEC Podcast and find us on Facebook at Final Encountercast. I want to thank my crew. Nika's not here, but I do want to thank those that did show up. Lord High Fat, Robbie, Callie, my name's Nate. Have a good one. Final Encountercast is a production of FinalEncounterCast.com, Limit Break Radio, and Bender Media Productions. Today's episode was produced by Nate Bender, Robbie Landis, Callie Sloan, and Kooky Persona. This show is made possible by the generous Patreon donors of the podcast Limit Break Radio. Opening music provided by Keyboard Kid. More info and music can be found at keyboardkid206.bandcamp.com. Closing music provided by Sobsy. For more info, visit sobsy.bandcamp.com. Final Encountercast and its hosts are solely responsible for its content.